Hello, this is Brian Resney, President of Resney Wealth Management. I'm bringing an important update about the economy and the investment market so you can better understand what we see in the global landscape. Well, it's official. Ben Bernanke officially announced yesterday that they would start reducing the quantitative easing or bond buying purchases by about $10 billion a month. Now, again, this is actually positive news. What this tells you, and I've said this repeatedly over the last quarters or months, is the economy is slowly getting better. We're seeing improvement not only in the U.S. but across the pond, and we're seeing improvement in the labor markets, the GDP, retail sales numbers are obviously being revised up. These are all positives. While there's all kinds of negatives you will hear all the time in the news, as I've always tried to teach our TV, radio listeners, and of course our clients, news, negative news sells. So at the end of the day, turn off the negative news, go spend time with your family around the holiday season, and after the holiday season, keep turning the news off. At the end of the day, if the economy continues to get strong, not only here but around the world, you'll probably see higher prices in certain asset categories. Equities, of course, in the U.S. primarily have been pretty good and been on a pretty much storm all year. The emerging markets look like they're going to start coming back as we get into year-end, and we are hopeful that we'll continue to see improved relative strength in the emerging market economies and in the equity sectors that we hold into 2014. Now, while Ben Bernanke is going to reduce the bond buying from $85 billion per month to about $75 billion, he's also indicated, and so has the Federal Reserve, that if in need, they will be back into basically either bring it back to the $85 billion or do other measures necessary to keep the U.S. economy growing in the right trajectory. These are, again, positives for not only the U.S. marketplace, but our economy and the world economies. We're seeing similar actions by other banking institutions around the world. I firmly believe that as consumers continue to pay down personal debt, they have a much better balance sheet overall. Now, as we get into year-end, of course, we're going to have the budget talks again, and there's already some indications that the current budget will be passed, that the Democrats and Republicans are talking about. And this, again, will give a little bit more ease to the general markets that, guess what? The government can actually work a little bit together and actually come up with some kind of budget. Now, at the end of the day, we do need to have a balanced budget. We need to reduce our deficits, which I firmly believe over time will happen. And I've heard this repeatedly, not only from comments on my TV and radio show from listeners, but I've had a few clients, make a comment like, but they're printing all this money. We've got the biggest deficit in history. Guess what, folks? That statement would have been true last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and 30 years ago. At the end of the day, cheap interest rates basically are going to spur economic growth, and the government's basically doing what they need to do to get our economy moving again. While this is not a long-term solution, it does help on the short term. And again, I firmly believe over time, our government officials are going to be forced to basically start cutting back some of the programs, the free money programs that I call it, that some people really should not be getting at all. While some people need help financially, there's a lot of people that realize free money's out there by our government and they can easily get it. I think some of those programs over the next decade or so will start to be curtailed. And again, this will be a positive, putting our economy back on more of a stable footing long term, and forcing people who can actually work to go back, get jobs, and do exactly what they need to do. Now, I've talked about this a few times over the last couple updates, but we did hire a new employee at Resney Wealth Management, and we're actually looking for a couple more. A lot of business owners that I talk to repeatedly, that not only are clients, but also friends and so on, are looking to also hire people. The job market is getting better. If people want to make a living, they can certainly do so. Maybe it means working 2 part-time jobs. Maybe it means working a full-time and a part-time. I can tell you this, people who work hard get ahead, and people who sit back on the couch do not. I firmly believe the United States has always been the best country in the world, and I firmly believe as we go through the rest of this year and next year, we'll continue to be the biggest and the best. And I hope that people that are maybe lax a little bit and on the public dole will realize that maybe it's time to get off the couch and start working a little bit harder, and that will help all of us hardworking people actually prosper more. And more importantly, it'll help those people who are on the public dole become more independent, which is exactly how this whole country's been built in the first place. Again, we're looking for improvement in the U.S. market as we go into 2014. We're looking for more improvements not only in Europe, but also in the emerging market economies. We continue to own floating rate fixed income type investments in our portfolios. We completely avoid anything over a 3-year maturity within our portfolios. And I firmly recommend, if you are not a client of our firm, that you call our firm for a consultation. There is a difference, and we do invite you to experience it. We are still finding mass amounts of calls that come into my TV and radio show, people who are on the wrong side of the bond market, who for some reason believe bonds are safe. Again, we've seen a tick up to 2.9% on the 10-year, and I repeatedly warned throughout most of this year that investors need to reduce exposure to bonds, and they need to get on the right side of the fence. All assets have risk. The key is, do you have assets that have risk and have no upside potential, or are you in assets that have some risk and actually can have an opportunity to make you a return on your money? Of course, if you're a client of Resny Wealth Management, give our office a call. If you're not a client and you want to start 2014 off on the right foot, call our office for a consultation. I know it's hard often to make changes and people like to procrastinate, but now is the exact time. You want to call our office, make an appointment, let's sit down, discuss your portfolio, and get you moving in the right direction. Make sure you have yourself a safe and profitable week, and have a great day.